Hey, I'm Ariana Rodriguez, a systems specialist for agency owners rooted in equitable, intersectional, and sustainable business practices. This podcast shares the stories of agency owners like you who have gone from bootstrapping solopreneurs to empowered CEOs. They've been where you are, and each week you'll hear how we created systems that support their brains and businesses to get them where they are today. This is Stories of Scaling. Welcome to the party. You aren't bad at making decisions. You just haven't created a standard decision-making process. So today, we're going to talk about feeling safe enough to standardize your decision-making process and holding standards in your business. I'm going to lay out the 3 most common decision-making phases I see entrepreneurs of all sizes go through regularly. And it's really normal to ping-pong between these 3 decision-making phases as you grow. You go through these phases with your business as a whole. And it can happen at any time you launch a new offer or hire a new team member. You're always in one of these 3 phases regarding different aspects of our business or your business. It's circular, not linear, right? So let's dive into phase 1 of the decision making. Saying yes to everything to figure shit out. This looks like avoiding one set of way of doing things because you don't know what works yet, right? This phase includes a lot of testing, being looser with expectations and boundaries, being more flexible with deadlines, and getting to know your limits, right? Phase 1 often gets a really bad reputation because it's kind of all over the place, but it really is essential to the creativity and scaling process because it means we're in new territory and facing new challenges. It is meant to teach you a lot. And you want to be really open-minded in phase 1 and allow yourself to ask the question, what if we try it this way often? However, it's super important that we don't stay here longer than we need to, because if we do, we're denying ourselves the opportunity for more growth. And that's because staying in this phase for too long also breeds resentment because you're saying yes to everyone except yourself. You may start to hate your clients and you may start to get angry and annoyed that they're asking for things that you've allowed them to ask for. So you start to get annoyed with yourself because you have to deliver on these things that you've promised and don't know why all of a sudden it feels so heavy and you feel like taken advantage of, right? We've all kind of felt that at some point. To give you a quick example here, let's say you're a done-for-you provider trying out a new offer. Phase 1 of building and testing that offer might look like you offering a beta version to a business friend who would benefit. Because you've never offered it before, you have to experiment with what you want to deliver, how you want to deliver it, and what the timeline would look like, and how high touch you want to be. It requires a lot of trial and error. And in the end, you may realize that you did way more for this beta person than you would for anyone else. And that's okay. You want to test and then decide based on the actual data, but also recognize when it's too far past your limits. So now let's get into phase 2. Phase 2 is finally making a decision about what you want to stick to, even if you know that it might change. It means narrowing your focus so that you can serve your client without sacrificing yourself. It's a balance of meeting your client's needs without disrespecting your own needs. To get here, it is necessary to feel safe enough to say no and to trust yourself to know that even if you make the wrong, quote unquote, wrong choice, you can bounce back. So much like phase 1, phase 2 of decision making is still a testing stage because finding that balance between your best work and your boundaries requires messing up sometimes and tipping the scales too far in one direction and the other. And again, that's okay because sometimes your boundaries change and sometimes your decisions need to change, but they need to be tested out in the real world to make sure that the decision makes sense for you and your business. It can be really, really scary because in this phase, you start to wonder, damn, will my clients still love working with me when I'm not a yes man? And you start to catastrophize thinking that if you aren't everything for everyone, they won't want you anymore. And I don't care if you're a coach, a nonprofit PR agency, a podcast producer, or a cleaning service. You will go through this questioning process because you've been taught to equate value with how much you can possibly give. However, If you allow yourself to set these boundaries and make these decisions, you will find that people actually value you way more and enjoy working with you because you know what is essential to providing the result that they want and what is simply a distraction. Now let's go back to the example of that done-for-you provider testing a new service. Once you've gone through the beta testing and allowed yourself to play in like the biggest landscape with this friend turned client, you go into phase 2 of deciding what you want to keep. You've started realizing what pieces of the project make the biggest difference, you know what deliverables are the most beneficial, and you decide what timeline makes the most sense for your capacity. So phase 2 requires you to get focused and understand that you can't include every single possible deliverable in your package, and you can't be Amazon Prime with the delivery. Once again, let me reiterate that this is hard. This is fucking hard. This is very emotional and it's very strategic work, but it is super important and in the foundation of your stepping into a greater role as a CEO and business owner versus just a freelancer. So once you've tested, iterated, cried for a little bit, asked for guidance, prayed about it, you're ready to move on to phase 3, which is getting so solid in your decision that you document it by creating standard operating procedures and policies. This phase is all about trusting yourself enough to standardize your decision-making process and then holding yourself and others to it. In this phase, you have to decide exactly how you want things to go in your business. Honor that decision and then force yourself to live up to it. Some scary shit. So you're setting a standard for how you operate. Setting a standard can be scary, especially if you're a people pleaser, because it forces you to say no and to put yourself and your business first, even more than you did in phase 2. But setting this standard and holding everyone to it creates freedom and more room for growth. You have more time as well as more mental and emotional capacity. You enforce those standards by creating SOPs and policies, and this allows you to scale much easier and more peacefully, because instead of enforcing your standard every time, you can make the document the bad guy. You can start saying, this is how things get done here. This isn't about being close-minded. It's about honoring what you can and can't do, right? So back to our done-for-you service provider example. By the time you get to phase 3, you've tested the offer, you've made mistakes, you've overpromised, and you've overexerted yourself in phase 1. Then you cleaned up the processes, took some things out of the promised deliverables, solidified your timeline, all in phase 2. And now in phase 3, you've put all of those decisions down on paper and said to everyone, including yourself, your team, and your clients, how shit will go and get done. You are owning all of the lessons that you've learned and made the big girl decision to say, I now know what needs to be done around here. This phase 3 is a big step and one that you will be so grateful to get to. And of course, you'll cycle back to phase 1 soon enough with a new offer or a new hire or a new idea. But phase 3 right now feels really, really good. Now, let me present these 3 phases to you with a real life example. So my client Isa, phase 1 Isa, started her business with a lot of enthusiasm and energy. She was saying yes to every opportunity that came to her, taking on all kinds of projects and clients, even when they weren't aligned. They weren't her ideal clientele for her vision for her business. She thought that by saying yes to everyone, she would be able to serve more people. But she wound up feeling overwhelmed and burned out. She was struggling to keep up with the demands of her business that she was beginning to resent. So then in phase 2, Isa realized that she couldn't continue like this. And this was when we began to work together. She needed to set boundaries and make some serious decisions about what she wanted her business to look like. So we built processes around the offers that brought her joy. And she started saying no to projects that didn't align with her vision and values. She set clear expectations with her clients about deadlines and deliverables. And then once in phase 3, once Isa had a clear vision for her business and a set of boundaries in place, she started documenting her decision-making process. We created SOPs for her business, outlining how things should be done. She also set up policies for her team, ensuring that everyone was on the same page. This really helped her to maintain consistency in her business and hold herself and her contractors accountable. The more comfortable you get going through these phases by trusting yourself, the easier and faster this cycle is. Feeling safe, making intentional decisions, setting and holding boundaries, and knowing your business well enough to make these decisions are what it's all about, right? So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the demands of your business, remember that you're not alone. It's okay to set boundaries and make decisions that prioritize your needs. And if you need help navigating these phases, I'm here. I'm here to support you. Consider our Jefe de Tecnología package, where we become your chief technology / operations officer, providing all the tech and operations strategy, doing regular audits, updating your SOPs, managing all the tech needed for your launches or new group offer. You'll also have bi-weekly strategy sessions with me and the support of our team throughout, as well as a dedicated Slack channel for your support. Let us help you streamline your operations and scale your business. Good luck on all that decision making. Nos vemos. Thanks for hanging with me today. It would mean a lot to me if you would review the show on your favorite podcast platform. It helps the show get in front of more agency owners that need it. Nos vemos.